on the way. Okay, let's see what we were talking about.
अब ये एक अच्छी माने सुगम उपाय निकल के आता है। मनुष्य को अध्ययन करने की आवश्यकता आ गई है। मनुष्य का अध्ययन के बाद ही हम समझदारी के बारे में प्रमाणित होना बन पाए।
Okay, so we were talking about some problems. We've gone over so many different types of problems that he said now can only be solved with an understanding of human beings that has been lacking up till now. So from where we start now, he says, okay, now we've reached this nice point where the way to study humans has become very accessible.
मनुष्य का अध्ययन के बाद ही हम समझदारी के बारे में प्रमाणित होना बन पाता है।
And it is only after a study of human beings that we can ever possibly be evidenced in our understanding. Yes, I think before this we were talking about how there's been this superhero type of faith-based acceptance of saviors, and but that was without any sort of evidence. We would put our faith in people, but there was no evidence of their understanding. There were a lot of claims, a lot of reassurances, but no evidence as such of that working out, of those assurances ever working out. So where was the evidence of understanding? He's saying it is only after the study of human beings that the evidence of one's understanding is possible.
उसका ये जीता जागता हुआ उदाहरण हुई जो आदर्शवादी विधि से मनुष्य छूट गया, ईश्वर और देवी देवता ये सब भाग गए। उसको समझाने के चक्कर में मनुष्य का अध्ययन को तिलांजलि करते।
And the living example of that is idealism, in which the humans got left behind in favor of these gods and deities and goddesses and angels and those sorts of things. In order to pay attention to those and to appease those, they sacrifice the human being. Basically, sacrifice the study of the human being.
हो गया। और उसके बाद जो दूसरा विधि आई, पूरा का पूरा भौतिकवादी युग आई, अब मनुष्य को छोड़ दिया, यंत्रों को पकड़ लिया।
And then after that, the second method that emerged, this materialistic scientific method, that again left the human beings behind and latched onto machines.
यंत्र प्रमाण है और इनके लिए किताब प्रमाण है। जब अभागा आदमी यूं करती हूँ अपने आप से हरिहर हो गया।
So here, machines are the evidence, and for the others, for the idealists, books are the evidence. Whatever this holy book has said, that is the ultimate proof. That is considered to be the evidence. As long as we can prove that this is what the holy book was saying, it is considered to be the truth. As long as in materialism, as long as we can prove that that a machine detects something, that is considered to be the truth. So this poor helpless human being became helpless in the middle of these two.
किताब प्रमाण है। जब अभागा आदमी यूं करती हूँ अपने आप से हरिहर हो गया।
अपने आप से हरिहर हो गया। Then on its own, this poor hapless human being was completely forgotten. Harihar ho gaya is like saying he was done away with.
पूरा हो गया, बात पूरक हो गया। तो भ्रम के पूरक होकर के भ्रम के ही चपेट में पच गया। पच करके जितना लात खाना था, मैंने कुंठित होना था, प्रताड़ित होना था और सहमना था, गहमना था, सड़ना था, जो कुछ भी होना था वो सब हो गए।
So this hapless person became something that was dedicated also to Brahm. So in the idealist tradition, even the human being is part of Brahm, is supposed to become Brahm, this entity called God, which is called Brahm in Hindi. That is what the human being became dedicated to, and was explained as being, what does he say?
मैं मैंने कुंठित होना था कि भ्रम के ही चपेट में पच गया.
Yeah, the human being became digested in this umbrella of the Brahm. So all that had to be understood about the human being was kind of wrapped up and summarized in this theory of what Brahm or God is. And in that, for that reason, in that course of explanation, whatever human beings had to suffer, whatever frustrations they had to suffer, whatever um, guilt and misery and helplessness that they had to
पच
suffer.
करके जितना लात खाना था, मैंने कुंठित होना था, प्रताड़ित होना था, और सहमना था, गहमना था, सड़ना था, जो कुछ भी होना था वो सब हो गए.
All that has already happened.
अब उसका उद्धार कैसा हो? जब
But how to overcome that? Online meeting. Nani came to say hi to Baba because on my screen, his picture is really big. She couldn't see you guys. Okay.
जो कुछ भी होना था वो सब हो गए. अब उसका उद्धार कैसा हो? जब उद्धार के बारे में तो पहले से भी आश्वासन है. तो सारे गद्दियां और आश्वासन देते ही हैं उद्धार.
So whatever had to happen to the human being in such an explanation happened. But then how to udhar hona, how to what's the word? It's not exactly overcome. Udhar karna is to help and to help them cross over and free ourselves of our misery. How to
how could it be uplift?
Uplift. Yeah. How to uplift. So this, whatever all this guilt and misery and helplessness that had to happen to the human being in the course of this idealist notion of human beings being all for becoming like God and becoming one with God, all that had to happened, but then there was no upliftment in that. So how to uplift human beings? For that, all these gaddis, all these positions of power had been giving assurances already.
करने के उद्धार का प्रमाण ना हो, कितना दिन तक झेला जाए?
But if there was no evidence of that upliftment, then how long can we continue to tolerate such assurances?
इसीलिए तो गद्दियों के सबसे बड़ी गद्दी जहां से स्रोत है किसका? समझदारी का. वो है शिक्षण संस्था. इन शिक्षण संस्था में विज्ञान के साथ चैतन्य पक्ष का पूरा माने समावेश होना चाहिए.
So for out of all of these seats of power, the largest, the biggest seat of power, that is the seat of power from where we can find understanding, is the seat of education. And that seat of education is held by the scientific world just now. And so we must complement this science in education with a study of the Chaitanya Paksh, or the conscious aspect of human beings. Because human beings are both body and consciousness. Therefore, the education, which is only focusing on the scientific, material, bodily aspect, must be complemented with this conscious aspect also. Both are necessary, he's saying.
चैतन्य प्रकृति का अध्ययन हुए बिना अध्ययन कहाँ पूरा हुआ?
Without having studied the conscious nature, how is our study complete?
सहअस्तित्व का अध्ययन हुए बिना अध्ययन कहाँ पूरा हुआ? ये दोनों भाग तो शिक्षण संसार में, शिक्षा सारस्वत में, शिक्षा वाङ्मय में, शिक्षा प्रक्रिया में ये बिल्कुल अछूता रखा हुआ है.
Without having studied coexistence, where have we completed our study? Both these parts of the consciousness and of coexistence, both of these parts are completely untouched in our education systems, in our education pedagogies, in our methodologies. All of it is completely untouched. in our entire world of education.
ये दोनों चीज आया नहीं है।
Neither of these have
उसके बाद
emerged.
जो जैसा ही हम मनोविज्ञान के पास जाते हैं, मनुष्य का अध्ययन से मानव संचेतना प्रमाणित हो जाती है, उसका खूब ही बीज समझ में आता है, उसकी आवश्यकता भी समझ में आता है, उसका प्रयोजन भी समझ में आता है।
Then when we move towards psychology, a study of the human being allows us to evidence humane consciousness, Manav Sanchetna. So a study of the human being allows us to evidence the humane psychology, and it allows us to also appreciate its speciality, its also its need as well as its purpose. The uniqueness, the need and the purpose of humane psychology can be understood and appreciated on studying human beings.
तो इसलिए क्या करना चाहिए, मन सीधा मान बने संस्कार पक्ष का अध्ययन मनोविज्ञान में समावेश होने की आवश्यकता है।
And so very straightforwardly what we need to do is that this aspect of sanskar needs to be added to a study of psychology. Now sanskar, as we've discussed, are these deep rooted acceptances of human beings that only come from understanding. All our other acceptances are shaky, they're on shaky ground, but only those acceptances of ours are deeply rooted, which are rooted in an actual understanding and actual seeing of existence as it is. Once you've seen it for yourself, once you've understood it for yourself, now no one can convince you otherwise. Nothing will shake your belief in that, because it is not believing without knowing, it is believing with knowing. So that is the sanskar aspect of human being. So that aspect needs to be understood when studying the psychology of human being. That needs to complement our current study of psychology.
ये दोनों शायद लोगों को समझ में आता है, आवश्यकता भी समझ में आता होगा।
These two possibly people will easily understand, and they would possibly also understand its mood.
तीसरा मुद्दा जो दर्शन शास्त्र के साथ प्रामाणिकता की अध्ययन।
Now the third point, a study of evidence or authenticity along with the study of philosophy. So he's talking about all these things. There is an existing educational system. Within our educational framework, we're already studying a lot of topics, but all of them are incomplete. So what needs to be added to it to complement it and make that subject complete? So we need to study the human being in our education system. In psychology, we need to study the sanskar aspect. In philosophy, we need to study this aspect of authenticity or evidence. It's not just theoretical and intellectual. Philosophy up till now has been that way. But philosophy has to be associated with evidence. That has to be studied.
दर्शन पढ़ने के बाद दर्शन के अनुसार प्रामाणिक हुआ कि नहीं हुआ?
After studying philosophy, has the person been evidenced according to that philosophy or not?
नहीं हुआ तो दर्शन क्या पढ़ा भाई?
If they haven't, then where have they studied that philosophy? How can you say we've studied it?
तो इसका जो छूत है बहुत पहले से बनी हुई है। मनुष्य को हम ये सोचते रहे, पढ़ा और पढ़ करके सुनाया तो विद्वान हो गया।
So the crux of this is that for the longest time we've been thinking that if a person has studied something and upon studying they can recite it, then they've become a great scholar.
ऐसा हम मानते रहे।
That is what we believe.
जबकि ऐसा विद्वान हुआ नहीं है।
Whereas that is not the case. They are not such a scholar based on this much.
पढ़ा, पढ़ करके सुना दिया तो हम विद्वान हो गए, ऐसा हम मानते ही रहे, जबकि विद्वान हुआ नहीं रहते।
The fact that you read something and then upon reading you are able to recite the same, we have believed that to be scholarly, whereas that is not actually scholarly. And as we had talked about this earlier as well, there is a difference between believing something to be right and it actually being right. लगने और होने में, मानने और होने में अंतर है, he keeps saying.
विद्वता एक समझदारी की मैंने स्वरूप है। विद्या स्वयं में अपने आप में अस्तित्व सहज है, तो अस्तित्व को समझे बिना विद्वान होता नहीं।
Knowledgeability is a manifestation of understanding, and knowledge itself is something that really naturally exists in existence. It's something real. So knowledge is real, and knowledgeability is an aspect of our understanding that reality. So without having understood reality, without having understood existence, there is no scholarliness.
अस्तित्व सहज है, तो अस्तित्व को समझे बिना विद्वान होता नहीं, जीवन को समझे बिना विद्वान होता नहीं, और मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को समझे बिना आदमी विद्वान होता नहीं।
Therefore, without having understood existence, the person is not a scholar. Without having understood the Jeevan or the conscious entity, the person is not a scholar. And without having understood humane conduct, also the individual, the person is not a scholar.
यह समझ में आता है, विचार शैली भी बनता है, और योजना भी बनता है, कार्य योजना भी बनता है, फलस्वरूप प्रमाणित होता है।
So once we understand this is quite understandable, then naturally our thinking also aligns with this. And once our thinking aligns with this, our programs also align with this. Once our programs align with this, our activities, immediate activities also align. And once those align, then this naturally gets evidence. So that is how you go from philosophy to evidence. You understand existence, consciousness, and humane conduct. And on the basis of that, your thinking aligns, your programs align, and your activities align. And therefore, you're able to evidence what you've understood directly. And others can see that evidence.
और योजना भी बनता है, कार्य योजना भी बनता है, फलस्वरूप प्रमाणित होता है। यदि हम समझते ही नहीं तो हम विचार शैली कहाँ से लाएं?
But if we've never understood existence and all these things, then where will we bring the thinking in line with it?
कहाँ से लाएंगे? हमको यही दो विधा में विचार शैली को दिया, सुविधा संग्रह के लिए कुछ करना है, उसके लिए आदमी विचार शैली तैयार किया।
From where will we bring a thinking in line with our understanding then? We have only received these two types of thinking, ways of thinking. In the first, it was about you must do everything in order to maximize your accumulation and resource consumption.
एक से एक हुए भी, इसमें दो राय है नहीं। बहुत सारे अंतरराष्ट्रीय ख्याति प्राप्त विचारशील हो चुके हैं सुविधा संग्रह में।
And there have been several people who are great at this. There are no two ways about that. There have been some great thinkers of this kind who have achieved great heights in resource consumption and accumulation. The highest thinkers of this sort of thinking have achieved heights of accumulation and consumption.
तो उसी बाती तो दूसरा वो हमको दिया असंग्रह, विरक्ति, भक्ति, उसमें भी करोड़ों आदमी अपने को लगाया, अपने धैर्य, साहस और निष्ठा का परिचय दिया।
And then the second way of thinking we've received up till now is where what was promoted was asangrah. What's the opposite of accumulation? Sacrifice. Not sacrifice. Asceticism, basically minimalism, not even minimalism. To the opposite of accumulation. Abstinence or austerity. So the other way of thinking was one which promoted austerity. On the one end, we have the side that promotes maximum accumulation and consumption, and the other said no, give away everything. You shouldn't own any physical, any attachment to anything physical, material is bad. There should be absolute austerity. And in that also, crores of people, millions of people have dedicated themselves, applied and practiced all of their patience and courage and perseverance.
अपने को लगाया, अपने धैर्य, साहस और निष्ठा का परिचय दिया, जिसमें हम कोई समाज का रूपरेखा देखने को नहीं मिली. वो
So millions of people have done this, but even in this, we could find no real basis or no real samaj ki ruprekha, a way to organize society on this basis, in which everyone can practice austerity.
वो अथक परिश्रम करने में तो आदमी कभी बाज नहीं आया है मेरे अनुसार. वो अथक परिश्रम करने में तो आदमी कभी बाज नहीं आया है मेरे अनुसार. परिश्रम करते जा रहा है, लक्ष्य और दिशा विहीन विधि से.
And this is with tireless hard work. And human beings have never actually lacked in their hard work. He says that it has never been hard work in which we've been lacking. It is just that we do all this tireless hard work without a real direction or a clear goal. That is where the problem has remained.
परिश्रम करते जा रहा है, लक्ष्य और दिशा विहीन विधि से.
So we've continued to work hard in a directionless and goal-less way. And by this he means that no clear direction, no clear goal.
तो मैं भी जो शुरू किए थे, हमारा कोई लक्ष्य थोड़ी ही थी. हमारा जो एक ही बात की आवश्यकता महसूस हुई थी, उसी को लक्ष्य माना जाए तो बात दूसरी है. हमारा प्रश्न का उत्तर.
So even when I started, I was also the same. It's not that I had any goal. I only had a sort of question. If you want to consider that to be a goal of some sort, then that's a whole other thing. But actually, I had no goal. I only had this question.
महसूस हुई थी, उसी को लक्ष्य माना जाए तो बात दूसरी है. हमारा प्रश्न का उत्तर.
And that was the answer to my question.
हमारा प्रश्न का उत्तर के बारे में हम जो कुछ भी परिश्रम किया, उतनी ही बात.
And whatever efforts I put in was in the direction of searching for answers to my question. That is all.
हमारा और कोई लक्ष्य नहीं थी. हम कोई
My orange colored peeler that I said. One second.
ऐसा दर्शन लिख दूंगा, ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं थे. समझ करके हम कोई लायक हो जाऊंगा, ये भी. हमारा प्रश्न का उत्तर के बारे में हम जो हमारा प्रश्न का उत्तर हमारा प्रश्न का उत्तर के बारे में हम जो कुछ भी परिश्रम किया, उतनी ही बात. हमारा और कोई लक्ष्य नहीं थी. हम कोई ऐसा दर्शन लिख दूंगा, ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं थे. समझ करके हम कोई लायक हो जाऊंगा, ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं थे.
So all my efforts were towards finding answers to my questions, that I would write this entire philosophy, that was not my objective. It was not even my objective to understand all of this and then become something more accomplished or uplift myself in any way. That was also not my objective.
हमको मोक्ष मिलेगा ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं थी, स्वर्ग मिलेगा ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं थी, पैसा मिलेगा ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं।
Neither was liberation or moksha my objective, nor was what did he say? Heaven my goal. So none of these were my goals. Heaven wasn't my goal. Liberation wasn't my goal. Money wasn't my goal.
थी, संग्रह मिलेगा ये भी नहीं थी, सुविधा मिलेगा ये भी लक्ष्य नहीं थी, संग्रह मिलेगा ये भी नहीं थी, सुविधा मिलेगा ये भी नहीं थी। हमको और कोई ऐसा कोई लक्ष्य हमारे पास था।
Neither was consumption my goal, nor was accumulation my goal. I had no such goal, basically. My only drive was to find an answer to my question. That's it.
हमारे पास एक ही बात थी, तो हमारा पास प्रश्न है, प्रश्न का उत्तर हो तो हमको मिलेगा। इस आस्था से हम शुरू किए।
There was only one thought in me, that I have a question, and if there is an answer to that question, if an answer to that question exists, then I will find it. That was the faith with which I moved forward.
शुरू किए तो संयोग से हम पा गए, है ना?
And this I happened to, thanks to serendipity, this is something I was able to achieve.
अब इसमें ये योग और संयोग की शब्द को हम प्रयोग करता रहता।
Now, in this, I keep using these words. I feel like we've done this before, but when I saw the last video, this is where we were. So now I keep using this word yog and sanyog, right? We've done this.
के बारे में भी मैं अपने आशय को बता दूं। योग का मतलब होता है मिलन। जैसा हम रास्ते में जा रहे हैं, कोई पत्थर मिल गया, ठीक है, जान।
So yog and sanyog, if I were to translate it, yog is a coming together, and sanyog is in Hindi it's just sam plus yog, which is sam plus coming together, which is a coming together for completeness. And in English, the word used for this is generally it's translated as something like serendipity. So he says yog is a coming together, is a meeting.
जैसा हम रास्ते में जा रहे हैं, कोई पत्थर मिल गया।
For instance, we're walking down the road and we meet a stone.
ठीक है, जानवर मिल गया, झाड़ मिल गया, दवाई मिल गया।
We meet an animal, we meet a shrub, we meet a medicine. By this means a medicinal plant.
और आदमी मिल गया, कुछ भी
Meet a
मिल गया,
person,
मिल गया।
whatever we meet.
इसका
we
नाम है
meet.
योग।
That is what is called yog, or coming together. Yog, maybe you could translate it as union.
संयोग का मतलब है पूर्णता के अर्थ में मिलन।
And sanyog or serendipity means a meeting for completeness.
पूर्णता के अर्थ में मिलन क्या होता है, जिसको हम प्रचलित रूप में देखा जाए सत्संग का नाम देते हैं।
So what is this meeting for completeness? If we look at it in the ways of popular usage, then we can call it something like satsang. Satsang ke liye, what was the word in English? Like a gathering of people, a communion, a positive gathering of people for goodwill of some sort. That's what people come together and chant, and people come together and pray together, and come together and talk about good things and spirituality together. That's what is usually referred to by satsang. It's done by different religions and sects in different ways. So I'm just giving it the word communion in English. So in general parlance, you could say sanyog or serendipity is like communion, meeting for completeness.
सत्संग का अर्थ को यदि उस ढंग से यदि मैंने देख पाएंगे तो शायद हो सकता है, किंतु मूलतः पूर्णता के अर्थ में ही बात पूर्णता की।
So if we see the meaning of communion in this way, then we'll be able to understand it. But essentially, this is about completeness.
सकता है, किंतु मूलतः पूर्णता के अर्थ में ही बात पूर्णता के अर्थ क्या है भाई? मनुष्य व्यवस्था में जीता है तो पूर्णता है।
So what is this direction of completeness? When human beings live in order, in an orderly way, then that is completeness.
प्रामाणिक होता है तो परम पूर्णता।
When they become evidenced, then that is ultimate completeness.
इतनी ही बात।
That is all.
प्रामाणिक होना मनुष्य का चाहत है, व्यवस्था में जीना मानव का चाहत है।
And to be evidenced is a desire, natural desire of human beings. To live in an order is a natural desire for human beings.
ये चाहत सदा सदा बना है, किंतु वो ना मिलने पर जो समीचीन मजबूरियों के अनुसार आदमी चलकर जो परंपरा के अनुसार ढल जाता है।
And this desire has existed for eons. However, due to the contemporary circumstances, due to their circumstances, human beings sort of make peace with the situation and align with whatever is happening around, despite this unfulfilled desire.
इतनी ही बात। ठीक, तो इन तथ्य को हम ठीक परिशीलन करने पर यही निकलती है।
So when we do a quick survey of this fact, this is what we find.
तो योग संयोग सदा सदा रहता ही है।
That union and serendipity exists eternally. They keep happening. We keep meeting people, and then there are all these unions that keep happening in the direction of completeness.
कई प्रयास जो पूर्णता के लिए प्रयास हुई है, सफलता एक अलग चीज है, प्रयास तो होता ही है।
There have been many attempts that have been towards completeness. Success is a different matter altogether, but there have been many attempts towards completeness.
पूर्णता के अर्थ को पाने के लिए और मानव ने काफी कुर्बानी किया है।
In order to achieve completeness, human beings have sacrificed a lot, given a lot of sacrifice.
इसमें दो राय नहीं।
There is no doubt
ये
about
कुर्बानियों
that.
का परिणाम में ये तो एक बहुत ही छोटी सी बात से मिसाल देते हैं अच्छे बुद्धिमान लोग। मैंने 101 हथौड़ी से एक हथौड़ी से में पत्थर फूट गया। इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि पीछे वाला सब निरर्थक है।
And a testimony to all the sacrifices humankind has made for completeness is that this is something that people have often also talked about, that just because a stone was struck 101 times and it finally cracked on the 101st strike, it doesn't mean that the first 100 were pointless.
तो ये सब तक जो फूटा नहीं था, ये सब निरर्थक था, ऐसा नहीं है। वो एक सब नहीं होता तो एक वाक कुछ काम नहीं कर पाता था, एक से शुरू करता वो।
So it is not that the first 100 were meaningless. If they had not been there, then this 101st one would have been unable to do anything. That 101st one would have been starting from 1 actually.
तो इसीलिए तो इन सब का कहीं ना कहीं, सभी चोट का कहीं ना कहीं स्थान है, उसका जो जिसको हम कह सकते हैं प्रभाव दबाव कहीं ना कहीं बना रहा, फलस्वरूप ही हम कहीं ना कहीं 101वें बार में हम कोई सफलता को प्राप्त करते हैं।
And therefore we can say that all those first 100 attempts had an influence, had an effect, that its effect and its pressure remained in human society, and that is why on my 101st attempt, so to speak, I was able to find the answers thanks to all those first 100 attempts.
इसमें मेरा आशय यह है, जैसा मैं सफल हुए किसी बात में, ये हमारा अकेले का योगदान नहीं है, इसमें सारा मानव का योगदान है. इसके
So in this, what I'm trying to say is that the fact that I succeeded, that is not my sole contribution. It's not a contribution of just my own. It is not all thanks to me. This is a culmination of the sacrifice and the contribution of all of humankind.
पृष्ठभूमि में सारा मानव का ही योगदान है. इसीलिए मेरा स्वीकृति ये है, मानव का पुण्य प्रभाव से ही ये कहीं ना कहीं घटित हो गई.
In its background lies the contribution of all of humankind, and therefore my acceptance is that it is due to the punya and the effect of the punya of all the contributions that mankind has made towards this direction of completeness up till now. Punya is like all the goodwill, existential goodwill collected by humankind up till now, something like that. This is a concept from idealism.
ऐसा मैं अपने को पाता.
This is how I find myself.
इससे हमको बहुत बड़ा लाभ क्या हुआ? बड़ी लाभ ही.
We've done all this. But okay, no harm doing it again. So a great advantage I find to thinking this way is that
ये हुआ, मुझ में अहमता का जर्मिनेशन नहीं हुआ. अहमता मैंने पा गया, मेरे जैसा कोई हो नहीं सकता, वो नहीं हो सकता.
That there was no germination of arrogance in me. Arrogance that I have achieved this, there is no one like me, there can be no one like me. These sorts of things are arrogance, and they did not germinate.
इस प्रकार की जो डिंग हाकने वाला बात हमारे पास आया नहीं.
This sort of high claims, this never emerged in me.
डिंग हाकने वाले बात कोई भी आता है, कोई आदमी भी आता है, काफी जल्दी वो शमन भी हो जाता है.
And this tendency of making high claims, if that ever arises, if there's some person who comes with this tendency as well, that gets subdued very quickly, very easily.
मेरे साथ अभी तक अहमता के साथ प्रस्तुत करने वाला व्यक्ति बहुत न्यूनतम रहे हैं. कितने भी बड़ी अहमता को लेके आए, थोड़ा 2-3 स्टेप, 2-3 सीढ़ी तक में ही उनका दो अहमताएं शमन होता हुआ मैंने देखा है.
There have been very few cases of people who have presented themselves with arrogance in front of me. No matter, even if they came to me with very high levels of arrogance, in the first few steps itself, I have seen that in the very first few stages of interaction, that arrogance would get subdued on its own. This is what I have witnessed.
मेरे साथ तो सारे मिलन सज्जनता के साथ, साधुता के साथ और जिज्ञासु के हैसियत से संभावित हो पाई.
All the meetings with me, all those who have met me, who I have met, have been completed with great civility, with great sageness, and with sincere curiosity.
इससे हम स्वयं खुश हो, प्रसन्न हो. ये कोई जरूरत नहीं है कि हमारे साथ सज्जनता से पेश आया, सारे बात मेरा स्वीकार लिया, ऐसा भी बात नहीं है.
Which is not to say, and with this I am personally very happy, I am very satisfied. Which is not to say that everyone who came to me
सज्जनता से पेश आया, सारे बात मैं प्रसन्न हो. ये कोई जरूरत नहीं है कि हमारे साथ सज्जनता से पेश आया, सारे बात मेरा स्वीकार लिया, ऐसा भी बात नहीं है.
Which is not to say that just because everyone presented themselves uh, with to me with great civility that they accepted everything that I had to say. That is not the case. So even though they were civil, it's not that everyone accepts what I have to say. There have been many who have disagreed.
बहुत सारे लोग नहीं भी स्वीकारते हैं. आज भी स्थितियां ऐसे ही है. बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे भी करते हैं.
Even today, the case is the same. There are several who still do not agree, do not accept.
ये कोई जरूरी नहीं है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. बहुत सारे लोग नहीं स्वीकारते हैं और उनका भी हम सम्मान ही करता हूँ.
So there is no such necessity. There are still so many who still deny that what I'm saying makes sense to them. But even those people, I still respect.
उनका कोई गलती नहीं है, ये परंपरा का गलती है.
It is not their fault. It is the fault of tradition.
परंपरा ने उनके ऊपर जो लाद दिया है वो कवच उतारा नहीं है. कवच उतरा नहीं तो ये क्या करता गरीब आदमी. तो
what tradition has imposed on them, that sort of armor they have yet to kind of take off. So you're saying tradition imposes a certain type of sheath around all of us, and at some point or the other, in order to face the dissatisfaction that we naturally face, we need to take off this sheath of compliance and kind of this acquiescence to our dissatisfaction, and then actually go seeking. So he's saying it's tradition that has imposed this sheath on people, and some people take it off and others are yet to take it off. They will also take it off. So it's not their fault. It's just that they have yet to take off this armor or sheath that tradition has imposed on them.
वो कवच उतारा नहीं है. कवच उतरा नहीं तो ये क्या करता गरीब आदमी. तो
And if the sheath is not off, the armor is not off, then what would this poor person have done?
जब उतरेगा तब समझेगा.
Whenever it comes off, they will understand then.
ऐसा हम गणित कर लेता हूँ. इस गणितीय विधि से हम खुश अपने में रहता हूँ. संयोग होता है पुनः तो कोई पहले न स्वीकारते नहीं है, वो बाद में स्वीकार.
This is a kind of calculation, I think. And in this calculation, there are some people who, in line with this calculation, there will be some people who will accept and those who will not accept.
तो कोई पहले न स्वीकारते नहीं है, वो बाद में स्वीकारा भी है. ऐसे भी घटनाएं हुई है.
Oh, and then there are, also people who initially did not accept, but then eventually, later on, they went on to accept. Those events have also occurred.
तो ये आपको ये स्मरण दिलाना चाहता हूँ कि जो कुछ भी हम समझे इसको तुरंत सबको ही समझ जाएंगे, ऐसा भी हठ धर्मीता ठीक नहीं है.
So this is what I'm trying to draw your attention to or remind you of, is that whatever we have understood, that the other will also understand the same immediately. This sort of stubbornness is also not appropriate. I'm sure we've covered this.
काल कर्म संयोग
No,
अपने
Parichay, I
आप
don't
में
think we have this topic this thing when he said so many people don't understand. I was hearing it for the first time.
Really? I feel like I've
Even-
translated this.
Even I'm sure we have not done this before.
Oh, maybe I was
No,
doing it for the other one.
Maybe, yeah, so many, no? You hear so many times.
Possible. Because I've heard this sentence and I was like, I found it very moving. I mean, that really touched me when he said that this sort of insistence that everyone will understand at the same pace I understand, that is also some sort of stubbornness, actually. We can't expect, it took us so many years, however many years, to understand whatever we've understood today. And whatever we understand tomorrow, it will have taken one more day extra. Whatever we understand 10 years from today, it would have taken 10 extra years for us also to understand. So why do we insist? Why do we get impatient when others haven't understood as much as we have understood? that is also sort of naive stubbornness, essentially. It's us not seeing the bigger picture that everyone has to go through that process. I found that, so maybe I was doing it for the other session.
ठीक नहीं है। काल कर्म संयोग अपने आप में सबके लिए सद्बुद्धि की एक अंकुर को रखा ही है। वो कब कितना पल्लवित होगा, कब पुष्पित होगा, इसको हम नहीं कह सकते।
Kal, Karam and Sanyog, these three things have put a seed in all of us. And when that seed will sprout and when that sprout will bloom is not something any of us can say for sure. Now, what are these three things? Kal, Karm and Sanyog. Kal is time, Karm is our actions, and Sanyog is this serendipitous union. So this whole, what he's trying to say is that what sows and reaps any seed of growth and fruition is time, our own action, willful action, and then of course all the serendipitous coming together within existence. So it's not just time basically that heals things, time as well as our own action. And it's not that we are the masters of our own thing. So if we want something, we can have it tomorrow. No, everything will take some time. It'll have its own, every process has its own natural time that it takes to fruit. And then it's not that, we've done everything. There are a lot of things that have helped us reach where we are, all these fortuitous unions that we've had that allow us to reach where we are. That is not just our doing. That's what he's calling serendipity or sanyog or communion in an existential sense. So these three things place a seed for growth in each individual, but how and when that seed blooms, sprouts and blooms is not something we can say for sure.
इसको कहने जाएंगे अतिवाद सा होता है।
If we try to pinpoint exactly when this is to happen, that would be a bit of an excess.
सीधा सीधा बात है, हर व्यक्ति शुभ चाहता है, यह सच्चाई है। शुभ चाहने की मूल में, शुभ चाहने के शुभ घटित होने के लिए संभावनाओं को और समीचीन किया जाए, और समीचीन किया जाए।
It's very straightforward that every individual wishes for well-being. And so that is the seed. We all have this universal desire for well-being. I have it, you have it, every person who is ever born, every human being has a desire for well-being. So that's the seed. Now, the most weak, because we cannot say when that desire for well-being will sprout and take fruit, the most we can do is we can gather all the sambhavna, the possibilities, and to make it more and more and more likely to the best of our abilities. That's what we can do.
एक दिन वो मिलन बिंदु मिल ही जाती।
And when we do this, when we gather all the possibilities to make this fruition more and more likely, what happens is that these 3 points of time, willful action, and serendipity, all of these do unite, come together, and lead to fruition.
ऐसा मैं गणित करता हूँ। शायद ये गणित सबको अच्छा लगे या किसी को अच्छा भी न लगे।
This is the kind of calculation I do in each interaction that I have. Perhaps this sort of calculation appeals to some of you. It's possible that it may not appeal also.
ये भी हो सकता है। मेरे साथ सुखद घटनाएं इसी विधि से होती रही।
But with me, it is through this mechanism, this method, that all the positive events have unfolded in my life. He was a very optimistic person. If you look at his life history, you'll see, even when he was at so many seeming dead ends, he kept thinking, okay, let me just try this. What if? And those things would end up working out.
एक बात ये स्पष्ट करना चाहा, और संयोग जब होते हैं, दो आदमी एक जिज्ञासा के मिलते हैं,
So this is one thing I wanted to clarify. Now the rest is an example of how serendipity has been thought of traditionally in different ways. And that's an interesting elaboration of its own. So I think we leave that for tomorrow since it's already 8:05. Okay.
Yeah.
I still have this very strong feeling that we've done this,
Mm.
Yeah. Anything that you want to say or ask or anything before we close today?
Mm. No, but I was thinking I'm gonna look at previous sessions once, not sessions, previous lectures, or maybe one or two in the past, so that that link which is lost because of so many days, no, maybe it will come.
Yeah.
But anyways, they're independent. Like independently, also you don't need as such
Yeah.
the past reference.
Yeah. Just now it's okay. It's like if you're attending a workshop, like this is a 7-day introductory course he's taking. Right now, when you attend a 7-day introductory course, you're in the flow. So all that forms into a sort of big picture for you. But when you're really new to it, even if you hear bits and pieces from different sessions, like when you attended the Hindi one, you didn't sit through the whole thing. But whatever little you sit through, you can get something and gives you fodder to think over. So it works out that way also. It's okay. You can listen to it independently. Actually, it does have a flow and connectivity, but even if you don't catch that yet, there is enough in each section.
There's a lovely movie.
Views.
You can get a romantic way.
Okay.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you then. Bye. See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, dear.
Bye.